Why are we coming back to try and climb Old Friends? Old Friends is probably not one of my friends. So when Extreme Rock came out, the first edition of Extreme Rock came out, I was breaking into the extreme grade. It came out right on the cusp of an explosion in climbing standards. So climbers were climbing pretty hard, but mainly still trad climbing. And then it came out and sport climbing and training and better walls came in, and the likes of Jerry Moffat and Ben Moon and the Boot Boys, Andy Pollitt and Johnny Dawes and all that crowd just really started pushing the grades. And I just absorbed myself in the literature. So I read everything I could find. I bought every climbing magazine. I read every book. It was Extreme Rock, though, that showed me this sort of next level of gritstone climbing, sort of E3s, E4s and E5s. And I wasn't really good enough to climb those sort of routes, but they were the ones I aspired to. And Old Friends, you can see it probably from Hathersage. You can see that wall from a long way away. It's sort of the highest part of Stanage, and you've just got this big wall, looks like a big blank wall, and then when you get up to it, there's just this hanging flake, and it just seemed like the route. So yeah, it was a route I wanted to climb. So 40 years ago, I fell off from that bit there, hit there, and then ended up having to get my legs screwed back together in 4 places. Try and land on the other leg this time. I think with climbing, I tend to resist like just chucking excuses. Oh, I fell off because, or I would have climbed that route because. The reality is you didn't climb the route. When I climbed it, I landed on my ankle. You can just see the scar still, and split my leg. And that ankle's always been swollen up. So everywhere I go now, I always bump the ankle because it's twice the size as a normal ankle.
Where did the decision come to re-release Extreme Rock?
I mean, as a publisher of climbing books, everybody said, "Oh, will you reprint Extreme Rock?" But it just didn't seem like it was a book we could reprint because it was of a time, it was of a moment, and the fact it was scarce said something about the book. And they lost the printing plates, so they lost the artwork. They couldn't reprint it, and copies have been changing hands for £500 for years because there's only a few copies were published. The fact it sold out was quite a good thing because climbing sort of moved on a little bit. I mean, these routes have stayed iconic routes, but climbing did change. So I think Extreme Rock 2025 has come of age, and it still celebrates the routes, but it's a new book for a new generation of climbers to go and discover those routes. So this is the original Extreme Rock. It was bought for my birthday by my sister. I've kept it ever since. I've very neatly ticked each route I've done, and I think that one of my go-to pieces of writing is the quote on the back about Beaugest. It seemed to me that its ascent was a moment of inspiration fired by desire, a classic natural sculpture and challenge made to be climbed, but only by the best. And that, of course, is a John Allen quote.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
John Allen routes are special. There's no two ways about it. I think for the modern climber, so somebody sort of capable of harder routes that are continuous movement, John Allen's routes are they're the best. They're not the hardest. We've got climbers now climbing sort of E10s, E11s and whatever. But the John Allen routes, and I'm thinking things like West Side Story and Shirley's Shining Temple and Chip Shot Brawl, they're just stunning routes. He seemed to have an ability to go to a crag and find that unclimbed bit of rock and put a route up, whether it's Old Friends or Prophet of Doom and they're just perfect routes. With the new edition, we kept the best things, so the John Allen quote stays because it's just timeless, and I think it says it's about Beaugest, but it's about Extreme Rock. I haven't climbed a lot of traditional routes. I haven't climbed a lot of grit routes in 20 years. And then when we started working on Extreme Rock and I started seeing the photographs again, and it just reminded me about John Allen, the first ascensionist, and times I climbed with him, and then everything I loved about climbing. And it just became that, and I could feel that same feeling when I got the first book, that same desire. It's still there, that same desire to climb those iconic routes and have those experiences. And I guess the second edition of Extreme Rock is just coming out. Old Friends is still there, and I think it's time to have a go at that route.
Are you nervous about the risk, or are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have climbed the route and then be doing this interview than doing this interview and climbing the route, if I'm frank. I'm not sure I can climb Old Friends, if I'm honest. I think we'll turn up there with a camera to film me doing it, and it might all be a bit embarrassing. I will mitigate it. I'll try and go out when the conditions are good. I'll be rested. I'll take a bouldering mat for the start. I now know that the friend goes in the side of the flake, not underneath the flake, and I've been told there's a good wire in there as well, so I can probably protect it better. So I'll be able to do it, or I won't be able to do it. So you come out the corner and you go into a little blind, tiny little crack, and it looks like you can get some wires in, and you spend ages trying to fiddle RPs and wires in, and they're all a bit rubbish. But I think when I fell off, the little wires at the start don't come into play. I probably won't even bother with them. Come on. So you shuffle leftwards, and then you reach up to the flake, which is really good, and then you can get bunched up, stuff a friend in and get some protection in. And I think knowledge now is there's a wire in there. There's a friend that goes inside of the flake, and I think you can get a wire in as well, but it's whether you can get that wire in. So you're on the flake, and then that's a big hold, and then I think the little hold there, so I think you've got to shuffle your hands so you end up with your left hand on the top of it a little bit. You got your feet high, and then you span up to the break.
Oh. Lovely, John. Woo! Still got it.
There'll be good gear in the break again, and then presumably just got some classic Stanage break lolloping to get to the top. For what can go wrong?
Yeah. Lovely, John. Relief. I was really scared. It's not. I looked at it last night. I came and abseiled it in the rain. and it just seemed harder and higher. And I remembered, and I spent all night worrying, and then I spoke to some friends, and they were like, I was like, well, I don't want to top rope it. And then they said, why not? Why don't you want to? So I did. Which made a lot of difference. Well, the problem is now, because it's climbing, you're immediately thinking of the next route. You're not thinking of the last route. Yeah.
What's next?
Well, next, if I'm honest, is wondering what I did with my socks.